Welcome back. Today we're in Marshall County, West Virginia at one of the largest mounds ever discovered in the Ohio Valley, the Creek Mound. This mound measures 62 feet in height, and we're going to walk up on top of it and get a better view and show you just how large this mound is. The original height of this mound was 69 feet. But I would say, over the years, in the last 200 years since it's been discovered, in the late 1700s, from the early settlers, from people walking on it, erosion, and I believe there was even a structure built on it at one time. We're getting way up here now. And this mound was originally created with a moat around it, which is now gone. And you can see the Moundsville Penitentiary here in the back, and I believe at one time the prisoners were tasked with the upkeep of this mound. And they say when this mound was discovered in the late 1700s by early settlers, it was covered with 400-year-old oak trees. And you got to figure that was probably the fourth or fifth generation of trees that have been on this mound over the time. And in the 1830s, 2 shafts were dug into the mound, revealing a tomb in there with a lot of offerings of shell beads and even copper bracelets, I hear. It's written in the journals of Meriwether Lewis that came down the Ohio on his way to meet up with Clark in Kentucky to start their 3-year journey exploring the Louisiana Purchase in the Corps of Discovery. Now, the original museum for this mound was actually inside the mound where they dug through to the tombs. They laid that up with brick and people could come in and actually see inside the mound. But there's a new museum now that was built in the 70s. So we're gonna walk down and go inside the museum right now and have a look at some of the artifacts. And a lot of these mounds in the Ohio Valley have been destroyed over the years. I believe a committee of ladies in 1909 or so stepped in and saved this mound from destruction. Here's a cool model of the mound. And they said this mound was constructed over 100 years. And you can imagine how many people were cremated and covered up in this mound. You can see here a simple structure of what they would have lived in. Just look at some of these amazing artifacts. This is this bird stone here. Very nice. And the pipes, just amazing. Here you can see some of the time period artifacts from the mound. You can see this hematite cone, which we found down on the Ohio River, a few examples. And even earlier stuff from a few thousand years before that in the archaic periods. And these banner stones here, they're a mystery. Now the ball type banner stones have been found in situ with atlatl throwing handles. But these wing banner stones are a little harder to nail down. They don't know what they were used for. All the way back to the Paleo Indians, and this is some of the earliest stuff we find around here in the Ohio Valley. They have some really nice artifacts in this museum if you want to come up and see it. Some of this jewelry and carvings are just amazing. You can see the gorgets here, like the pieces we found down on the Ohio River when I was digging. I've never found a whole one, but pieces. Here's even a copper gorget right here. And you see this bird stone here. What I think some of these bird stones were, in my opinion, were atlatl hooks that tied onto the end of the atlatl. Would also work as a counterweight, plus the nose could have fit right in the back of the dart for throwing. That's just my opinion, but from what I've seen, it makes a lot of sense. Here you can see examples of some of the woodland homes and the earlier homes. Just simple structures, but you can imagine how much material it would have taken to cover that roof. I guarantee that roof leaked too. And here you can see some of the later period homes in the Mississippian era, where they even have corn growing. Although this is not a mammoth, it's around the same size. And could you imagine trying to take something down that size using darts and stone tips? It would have taken several people and several darts, but I'm sure it would have fed a lot of people. Look at these stone hoes agricultural tools here. And these stone axes up here, very nice. This still eludes me. I've found a piece of one, but never have found a whole one yet. Here you can see one of the clay pots almost complete. If they only could have found the rest of those pieces. And I was thinking the other day, what genius figured out if they crunched up shell or flint and mixed it with the clay, that it strengthened it. You can see some of this 1700s china here, and I find this same pattern of china, that blue edged plate. I find the same pieces of that china on the river at least a few times a year. I don't know how good you can see this, but you can see they have 3 pieces of rubbed hematite right here. And we find numerous pieces of that where I look down on the river. Here's an example of a dugout canoe, and this thing would have taken a large tree to build. And if you ever read the journals of Lewis and Clark on the Corps of Discovery, when they needed to build a boat, a canoe, they would start fires on top of the log, burn it out, and then chip it out once it was burned up. Made it a lot easier, I would say. They have artifacts from Paleo times all the way up until the 19th century. So if you're ever in northern West Virginia, check out the Mound Museum and Grave Creek Complex in Moundsville, West Virginia. Y'all come back now.